Well, she's definitely still leaking in a few spots. I'm definitely over this thing we call summer. Beautiful morning out. Coda's having a blast. It's a gorgeous morning so far. Staying relatively cool. I think today's supposed to only be hitting the 80s. She's going crazy. We're planning on going to Brown's Camp, I think I mentioned before, for Labor Day. But I gotta get a few things done. I mean, in general, the Dakota's pretty much ready to go. I mean, I could take it out wheeling right now, but there's a few things that I need to address. You can see all under here, there's a lot of tranny fluid. And I've shown this before, and it's leaking out of, I wanna say, the pan and the dipstick tube. And it only leaks when it is sitting for a while. None of this stuff is really an immediate, like, it needs to be fixed, because the truck is still 100% usable. I ended up getting some valve covers the other day to stop the leak, so maybe we can actually drive this thing on the road. So the longer I have this Ramcharger sitting, the more excited I get. So I kind of want to get this thing dialed in so I can actually drive it on the road. And I actually saw one on the road yesterday, surprisingly enough. After my last video, I said, oh, I've never seen one around here, this and that. And of course, yesterday I end up seeing one. That just makes me want to get this thing up and running just that much more. So we're gonna go ahead and start by throwing these valve cover gaskets on there and see if we can get that leak to stop. Every bolt on this Ramcharger is definitely a little weird. So, I mean, the valve cover gasket bolts are an 11, which just seems a little odd to me, but that's the size that it is. So we are gonna go ahead and get these things taken off. No, they're not very tight. I'm not sure what the torque specs for these are, but it doesn't really look like there's a gasket. It looks like someone gooped some sealant all over. So I gotta grab my magnetic tray, because if I don't, I 10 out of 10 guarantee I'm gonna lose some bolts. Where is my magnetic tray? Usually it's hanging up right here. I'll be right back. Well, I have absolutely no idea where my magnetic tray went, so at this point it is what it is, and I'm not gonna just continuously look for it this entire time. And we will go ahead and continue getting all the bolts off. Well, just like I thought, obviously the gasket's bad, but the part that I was thinking is someone gunked a lot of sealant on this cover, and I don't know if it was because the cover is warped, but this is all gonna have to get cleaned up. Today's definitely not as hot as some of the other days, but I'm definitely over this thing we call summer. But I got some degreaser sprayed down on the valve cover. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this off and see if I can't clean it up a little bit more. New valve cover gasket is on, and the valve cover is bolted back down. I'm gonna go ahead and start it up and obviously check for any leaks, get some heat soaks, double check the bolts, and then I'm gonna check that side to see if I need to change it, because there's not really any oil residue for the most part on the other side. So if I don't need to change the other side, I'll obviously save the other gasket that I have and save it for, you know, if this side goes bad again, or if I end up needing to change that later. But let's go ahead and start this up, and I'm gonna check down here to see if there's any leaks. And I don't know if anybody has seen, I've never seen a Ramcharger key. I don't know if this is the original key, but this is the key that works for it. It's definitely an oddball kind of key. I always forget that this thing is carbureted, so I gotta give her a oh, she shut off. Let's try that again. definitely running rough. There we go. Yeah, she's definitely still got to be adjusted. Well, she's definitely still leaking in a few spots. So I'm gonna have to go around and tighten some bolts, and I'm hoping this valve cover isn't warped. Well, while I try to get the valve cover to seal properly, if I even can, without getting a new valve cover, I'm throwing some of this old school stuff on the engine bay all around, just getting her cleaned up, letting her soak in and eat away some of that gunk just everywhere, from the power steering to the steering box, around the headers, the starter, just a little bit of everything, just caking it on there, and it's cleaning up pretty well so far. The engine bay cleaned up pretty nice, I'd say, for just some spray foam degreaser. I want to clean out the back and get everything back here out, and these shocks are so blown that it doesn't even want to hold the door up anymore. The mufflers and the rest of the exhaust is back here. Got some what looks to be almost brand new studded tires, so I want to clean all this out of the back just so it's out of here. And I'm not sure if I'm going to reuse these mufflers. I might end up getting something different. Well, it's the next morning and it's still pretty early, so I don't want to be starting up the Ramcharger with absolutely no exhaust on it first thing in the morning. So in the meantime, and I also have to go get some fuel for it because I think it's out of gas. So in the meantime, I'm gonna see if I can't tighten up the bolts on the tranny pan of the Dakota and see if maybe that's part of the issue. It's leaking quite a bit. You can see the exhaust is fully soaked, and I'm not sure 100%. I was laying on the French. I'm not sure if 100% if it's all coming from the dipstick, because the whole thing seems to be pretty soaked all the way around. So we're gonna see if I can't just tighten some of this stuff up. Oh yeah, it's definitely loose. Oh yeah, these are all extremely loose. Well, I say extremely, but I'm getting a pretty easy turn out of them. Maybe this is what's causing my leak. I don't know. I'll just work on it and wheel it. I don't do too much normal little maintenance stuff like this. I do bolt checks, but not on the transmission. I don't know why. I guess we shall see if that possibly fixes it. I'm gonna come under here and spray the crap out of all this with some of that degreaser, and then wash it down and watch for some leaks. This stuff typically works pretty good. Now I'm gonna let that stuff sit, wash it off, and look for a leak. Well, now that that's all cleaned up and cleaned off, hopefully tightening down those bolts will actually fix the leaking issue on the tranny. Because for me to even drop the pan, I have to actually take the exhaust off from the headers back just to be able to get the pan down and out. So if I can get the leak to stop without doing that, that would be absolutely fantastic. I think it's time to actually do a proper cleaning on the inside. This thing isn't very dirty, but hasn't been cleaned on the inside since I got it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling all this stuff out and go ahead and vacuum the inside, get her cleaned up. Well, I went to go adjust the rear view mirror, and yeah, it fell off. So I'm gonna have to put that back up. Oh, great start to cleaning it. So, update. The valve cover is definitely still leaking, even after putting the new gasket in there and cleaning it up. So my thoughts is that being that this valve cover is fairly thin, these bolts have been torqued down heavily before. You can see on this back one how it's kind of got some divot to it, and I think the actual valve cover itself is warped. So I'm going to look into getting some thicker, heavier duty valve covers. I've already seen some, you know, around $100. So that is gonna have to be dealt with later on. So if anybody has any recommendations on what covers to use, I would greatly appreciate it. But I might end up getting a similar style to what I have on the Dakota, a thicker cover, just so you can actually tighten it down without it warping. I ended up getting the inside cleaned up quite a bit. Got everything pretty much taken out of here, minus the old jumper cables. But this thing is actually extremely clean for what it is, minus some of the rust, and not sure what the idea was there, but to try to seal it up. But these windows are all going to get taken out, and it's all going to be redone later on. The back still needs to be cleaned up a little bit more. There's some panels. I'm not sure what they're for. I don't think they're for the door, but they might be. They look a little small comparative for the door. Well, actually, they might be. This is the passenger. Oh yeah, these are the door panels. Huh, the more you know. This is the passenger side one though. So I will have to clean these up and put these back on and get the doors fully functioning, because the passenger side is not hooked up. I was messing around with the mufflers that were in the back and went and got a little adapter, but there's so much stuff rattling around in these that I'm not even willing to mess around with those. I will just buy some new mufflers or just some cheapo glass packs. I mean, that's what I have on the Dakota, is just a glass pack. So this is true dual exhaust all the way down. Eventually I will be getting all new exhaust all the way down, but as of right now, just trying to get this thing running to get it back on the road. What are you doing? What'd you do, deflate your ball? What about this one? You want this? So I'm gonna go ahead and get some valve covers and then get some mufflers for this thing. Everything else seems good. Other than the Ramcharger though, I do want to come over here and take a look, and it is still leaking. Definitely still leaking. You can see right where it's leaking from. So that tells me that tightening up the bolts was not necessarily the issue. So it is definitely the dipstick tube itself is not sealed in there, because I cleaned this off only a few hours ago, and there's already that puddle, and the exhaust is already soaked. Love it, absolutely love it. And I noticed the other day that the rear diff is leaking as well, so I'm gonna have to address that at some point. So we're gonna start working on the Dakota and getting it ready for Labor Day weekend so we can go wheeling. As for the Ramcharger, I'm gonna order up some parts and we're gonna get back to it.